How do you see Sri Lanka right now from a macro perspective?
From a macroeconomic perspective, we are definitely not out of the woods yet. So there's a long way to go. But right now, things are looking positive, all the indicators. I mean, inflation is coming down and interest rates are set to come down even further, if you look at the recent report by HSBC. And also, the central bank's reserves are also going up, and most of the import restrictions are being taken off. So I see that though we may be posting a negative growth for this year, the last quarter will be quite positive. So towards next year, we'll see economic growth once again.
You're an optimist, I know. Do you see opportunity in this unprecedented economic crisis that we went through?
I'd like to be optimistic, knowing that as a Sri Lankan, we are very resilient. But there is a lot of opportunity, especially if you are going to use this crisis. As Winston Churchill says, never waste a crisis. So like many countries, like for example, Thailand or India, they all used a crisis to do structural reforms. Like the best example would be India. In 1991, they went through a crisis. So that kind of made it possible to do some of the reforms. Like even in Sri Lanka, so there are some very tough structural reforms, like SOE reforms, central bank independence, labor laws and land law reforms. These are only possible when the entire nation knows that it has to be done within a certain time. So I think this would be a good opportunity for us to get things right.
What are your concerns in getting Sri Lanka somewhat back on track?
Though this crisis is a good opportunity, there are some certain consensus. One thing is political consensus. That's quite needed. You see, just to go back in history, since we started opening our economy in 1977, from 1977 till 2005, there has been a sort of a broader consensus on how the economy should go forward. There was like, even though there were three presidents, President J.R. Jayawardena, President Ranasinghe Premadasa, and then President Chandrika Bandaranaike, who was from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. So even President Chandrika Bandaranaike sort of continued the economic policies of the past two presidents. Privatization was continued under CBK, like privatizing Sri Lanka Telecom. What I see is that after the mid-2000s, there was a sort of a change. You see, the public sector started growing, and then trade, we sort of shifted towards import substitution. So here again, I feel that we need to have a broader consensus. You see, in countries such as India and Thailand, there is no debate about whether privatization is right or wrong, whether we should be reducing the public sector size. So there is a sort of a national consensus, and both the BJP and the Indian National Congress are sort of like broadly agreeing on certain principles. So that's what I see as a major concern. So we need to move in that path.